Lebanon's fragile new ceasefire with Israel is already under threat after Hezbollah emphatically rejected the agreement reached between the two countries. In a strongly worded statement, the Iran-backed group's leader said negotiations in Washington have been futile and humiliating for Lebanon. Both Israel and Hezbollah are continuing to launch attacks on each other despite the confirmation of the truce.
Lebanon's army has stepped up its presence. The south has seen weeks of heavy fighting between Hezbollah fighters and Israeli forces. The ceasefire has created pilot zones where the army is readying to deploy exclusively. Lebanon's president says this represents a last opportunity to prevent an escalation of the conflict. But Hezbollah insists its resistance will continue and has described the talks in Washington as a farce. The Iran-backed armed group added that a full Israeli withdrawal and the return of forcibly displaced residents are essential conditions for any future agreement. But Israel's defense minister says there will be no retreat and warned people who fled their homes not to return. The Irish Defence Forces says the situation remains highly volatile and that all Irish personnel are well and accounted for. It follows the killing of a Serbian UNIFIL peacekeeper by mortar fire at his post near Marjayoun last night. Iran has made a ceasefire in Lebanon a condition for any wider deal with the US. This as President Donald Trump has once again said he is close to agreement with Tehran. But Iran's foreign minister has told Lebanese media that any return to the negotiating table would be contingent on securing Iran's rights and ending the war on all fronts. However, amid the flare-up in tensions between Washington and Tehran in recent days, the US president redefined his interpretation of a ceasefire.
I'd say in that part of the world, ceasefire is when you're shooting in a more moderate manner.
In a written message, Iran's supreme leader said the US and Israel have failed militarily, but warned that they are now shifting to a campaign of sowing division amongst Iranians. David Landy, RTE News.
Well, as doubt grows around the likelihood of a truce between Israel and Lebanon succeeding, we can speak to one Middle East academic. Dr. Badr Al-Saif is the former Deputy Chief of Staff to the Kuwaiti Prime Minister and is now a Fellow at Chatham House. And Dr. Al-Saif, thanks indeed for joining us on 6-1. That truce that we mentioned there between Israel and Lebanon, it's on shaky ground to say the least. Do you think it can succeed?
Well, Tommy, this is a question that could go back to the conflict in the Middle East across decades, whether it's the Israel-Palestine conflict or Israel's conflicts with its other neighbors, be it Lebanon or Syria, and the Iran-Israel jab as well, whether the current one or the past one. And those have been shaky truces because they are usually not addressing root causes of the conflict. Now, I understand it's very difficult to get into those root causes when you're in the middle of a war, but we always need to have an eye to the long term. And as you can see from the current truce proposal that just came out a few hours ago in the US, this is quite vague, unclear, and how it's going to be administered, especially when one party to the conflict, Hezbollah, is not even involved in these discussions. And I think this needs to also include all Lebanese parties, which would be a difficult issue given how it's been conducting the war. And remember, Israel is occupying Lebanon. Close to a fifth of Lebanon is being occupied now. So the notion of pilot zones where it's Lebanese armed forces taking control on the condition there is no Hezbollah attacks and Hezbollah is not even on the table is quite murky. So we need to see how that goes. I don't think it's going to jive well with Hezbollah. And don't forget, Hezbollah is also part of the Iranian proxy network. So Iran, whether we like it or not, has a say in this. It shouldn't be the case. It should be a Lebanese sovereign decision. But they have certain levers of influence over Hezbollah. So it serves them best to also be part of that discussion.
As you say there, Iran is a major backer of Hezbollah, and therefore is a deal between the US and Iran. Is that essential in order to actually secure peace between Israel and Lebanon?
Look, the files are interconnected whether we like it or not. And this is part of the narrative that's been unfolding in the Middle East, unfortunately. Obviously, there are different ways to skin the cat. Are we going to go to the Lebanon-Israel file directly, individually, or are we going to connect it to a larger US Israel-Iran file and discussion? I think all of the above. As long as we spare blood and we continue working on a path of, reconciliation, quietness, peace, that's the path that we need, Tommy. We've had enough of conflict in the region. The people of the region deserve better.
The trouble is, though, Donald Trump, the US president, has said that he wants to keep talks between the US and Iran separate to talks between Israel and Lebanon. Is that a sustainable position, do you think, for the US president to take?
I think it was interconnected in the past, as we saw in the earlier days of the truce back in April. And you saw the very tough call that happened between the president and the Israeli prime minister over the incursions in Lebanon. I don't think it serves Israel well to continue its bullying behavior across the Middle East. If Israel wants to secure itself in the neighborhood and to be accepted, it needs to think twice about its actions. And going in that route of violence and conflict and occupation does not serve it well.
You're speaking to us from Kuwait City, and yesterday, of course, we had those reports about the attack on Kuwait airport blamed on Iran. It's the latest in a series of attacks on your country from Iran over the past couple of months. Can I ask what life has been like in Kuwait?
Life has been normal. We've been struggling with the attacks, as you rightly noted. We've had 30 missile and drone attacks in the last 24 hours alone, which, had 63 plus injuries, one person dead. And this is unfortunate because Kuwait did not partake in the war. Despite all the propaganda that's been coming from Iran or Iranian-linked voices that Kuwaiti airspace and bases were used against Iran, whether by the US or others. This is not the way that Kuwait conducts its businesses. These are partnerships that we have with the US and other countries to serve our own interests, and they came in the wake of our occupation by Iraq in the 1990s.
You've worked in the Kuwaiti government before. Sorry to cut across you. And as you mentioned there, part of the reason, in fact, the major reason why Iran is targeting Kuwait and other Gulf states is because of your links to America. And I wonder, given what has happened now over the past few months, will the Kuwaiti government have to rethink its relationship with America? Is the government going to do that?
Look, Kuwait, like any other country, is a sovereign state, so they take their decisions based on their national interests, the same way that Iran would. And no one dictates what another country does, and we certainly do not interfere in the affairs of other countries the way that Iran unfortunately has into Kuwait and other places, whether through infiltrations, proxy activity, sleeper cells. We want a normal relationship with Iran. We want normalcy, we want to extend our arms, and we have for a while, to go ahead and move into a path of prosperity with Iran. Thinking that these bases are geared towards them is fallacy. And they've been there for the longest time, and they didn't serve any purposes against Iran. That's why the US has amassed a long armada, as they call it, in the Arab Sea, and they've been using their aircraft carriers to that purpose. And that's what Iran needs to understand. And let me tell you, Tommy, I think Iran does. But because of the geography, we're an easier target. And that's why they've been going at Kuwait and other Gulf states for the past few months.
It's been interesting to talk to you this evening. Dr. Badr Al-Saif, former Deputy Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister in Kuwait and now Fellow at Chatham House. Thanks indeed for joining us on 6-1.